we go over some free fall questions in a simple way. So if a body falls off of its path in the last second, what is the time and height of its fall? Well, the only information that we know is that it has fallen in the half of its distance in the last second. So let's say if the height of this building is h, and then half h, okay, that is half of its height. It took the last second, so we have got the last second here. The time is 1 second. Now let's consider if the time from it will take the body to fall for the height h is t. First, what is the height which it has already fallen? So we just say h minus half h, that is also half h. Now if it took 1 second to fall for half h, then what is the time it is going to take to fall? What is the time that it had already fallen? So since the whole time of flight is t, and then in the last second it is only 1, so that is the time that is going to take to fall in the first half h. So having said this, now we need to write some equations here. We know that from the equations of motion, height is given by initial velocity times time plus half gt squared. Now this object just fell, so the initial velocity is 0, and so height is going to be just given by 1 over 2 gt squared. So this will be our first equation. Now considering motion that had already taken place before the last second, in this same equation we are going to substitute, where there is height we are going to substitute half h, and that is going to be equal to ut plus half g. Where there is time, I have not even substituted. Where there is time, in the first half h we took time t minus 1, but you know that the initial velocity is 0, so the first portion is going to be 0, so we'll not write it. We'll just go on and substitute in this portion. So that is half h is equal to half g, where there is time we put t minus 1 squared. So this will be our second equation. This is the first one, really. Okay. Now what we'll do, we are going to solve these two equations together. I'm going to divide the second equation by the first equation. So I'll say half h is equal to half g t minus 1 squared, and then equation 2, that is, equation 1, that is h is equal to half gt squared. So at this point we can see that this height and this height cancels out, the half and the half cancels out, the g and the g cancels out, and so what are we going to remain with? We're going to remain with half is equal to t minus 1 squared divided by t squared. So we can see that on this side all the letters are squared, so we can simply square root. So we're going to square root the whole of this portion, and same we're going to square root the whole of this portion. And what are we going to have? Well, the square root of 1, we know it is a 1, so let me remove this. Square root of a 1 is a 1, and then down we have got square root of 2, because this square root applies to both 1 and 2, and that is going to be equal to, on top we are just going to remain with t minus 1, and then down we are going to remain with t, because we have square rooted the square, cancel the square root, even that square cancels the square root. At this point we can cross multiply, so we're going to have the root of 2 multiplied by t minus 1 is equal to t, so that will give us root of 2 times t minus root of 2 is equal to t. I can bring to this t this side and then take the root of 2 the other side. So that will give us root of 2t minus t is equal to root of 2. I can evaluate, I can factorize out a t. So I'll remain with t, and then root 2 minus 1 is equal to root 2. So to remain with t, that is going to give us root 2 divided by root 2 minus 1. Well, we can even find the exact value by punching on a calculator. Square root of 2 divided by square root of 2 minus 1. That is 3.41 seconds. So this is the time that is going to take to fall. But what is the height? Well, we can get any one equation amongst the equations we have here. I'm going to use just the one I've left there, which is much simpler. So we know that height is equal to half gt squared. So where there is height, that's the height is what we want to find. So we know that g is 9.8. Where there is time, we'll now substitute 3.41 and then that squared. So the height is going to give us 3.41 squared multiplied by 9.8 and then divided by 2. So the height is 57.12 meters. So that is going to become our height. Let me repunch that. Half multiplied by 9.8 multiplied by 3.41 squared. Okay, so that is it. That will be our value then, 57.12. So that is going to depend with how many significant figures we are going to use if we are to get the same value. So on my first punching, I used just the exact value, this one, to punch, and it gave me that. Alright, let's go to the second one. A body is dropped from rest. So this is dropped from rest from a height h. It covers the distance 9h over 25 in the last second of the fall. Find the height h and the time. So again, so if the whole height of this building is h, and then we've been told in the last second it had to fall 9h over 25 as the height. So that is the distance it fell in the last second here is 9h over 25. That is in the last second. So now, what is the height that it has already fallen? And how do we find that? It is just by saying h minus 9h over 25. So this is also over 1. So this is going to give us 25h minus 9h over 25. Okay. And that is 16h over 25. So that is the height that it has already fallen. 16h over 20 over 25. And since it had fallen this kind of height in the last second, that means the time it had to fail, this one, is t minus 1. If it took t to travel the whole height h. Okay, same formula, we're going to say h is equal to ut plus half gt squared. So we've been also told it is coming from rest. So the initial velocity is 0. So that is h is equal to just half gt squared. This will be our first equation. And then in this same equation, we are going to substitute this height to find the time it will take to find an equation. It will take just to cover this height. So where there is height, we are going to substitute 16h divided by 25, and that is going to be equal to half g. Where there is time, it did this in t minus 1 seconds squared. So be our second equation. Alright, so we can divide the second equation by the first equation. So that will be 16h over 25 is equal to half g t minus 1 squared This will be divided by the first equation. We've got h this side, and then we have got half gt squared there. So what is appearing on both sides? We can see height, and that height is going to cancel out. The half cancels out with the half. The g also cancels out with the g. So we're just going to remain with 16 out of 25, and that is equal to t minus 1 squared divided by t squared. At this point, we can as well square root on both sides because we've got squares on the other side. Okay, so that is what we are going to have. So the square root of 16 here is a 4. So that will be 4. Square root of 25 is a 5. And that is going to be equal to t minus 1 divided by t. At this point, we can cross multiply. So that is going to give us 5t minus 5 is equal to 4t. So let's take the 40 over the other side. So that is going to give us 5t minus 4t is equal to 5. So that means the time is 5 seconds. Alright. Now, what of the height? The height we can get in one of the equations. Let me get that one. So height is equal to half g, where there is g we put 9.8, and then t, that is 5 squared. So 5 squared, that is a 25, multiplied by 9.8 and then divided by 2. So the height was 122.5 meters. So that is all in this video. Thank you so much for watching. If that was helpful, be sure to subscribe. Thank you so much.